Hello, hello, hello. Texas Tomo here, your favorite top 5 spin and go Twitch streamer that sometimes does hand reviews and sometimes does shorts, maybe. We're coming at you with another hand history this time. Taking a look. It's been sent to us, again, never seen it before, and we'll have a look. I believe it's Patrick Antonius we're taking a look at today, chewing away on something.
Offsuit Broadways for Patrick. 3K incoming. Jack 10 for Anson comes along from the small blind. Aaron Zane completes 7-5 hearts, all smiles.
Okay, so let's start with what's happening here. It is a cash game, and we get a kind of early-ish position raise with Queen Jack off, seems absolutely fine. Jack 10 off defend from Anson Yu. Don't know if I pronounced it correctly, sorry Anson. And Aaron Zhang defends the big blind with 7-5 suited. All seems good so far. The stacks they're playing, blinds are playing 500 and 1k blind. But yeah, we get a raise to the 3000, a quarter 3000, a quarter 3000, and take a flop.
Board texture does give everyone a piece. Top pair for Patrick and Anson. Bottom pair for Aaron. Antonius is the pre-flop aggressor.
8. Just in case.
Yeah, it's just all announcing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's stop it there and have a little think about this. So Patrick decides to see bet 80%-ish pot on the flop, which seems pretty reasonable with Queen Jack off. Definitely a hand. Seems fine to defend. They are fairly deep in its three-way and actually wouldn't be the end of the world occasionally, I think. Probably some theoretical stuff, although three-way is really difficult to know the perfect equilibrium. But like, there's some room even to maybe even check back a couple of Queen Jacks, I'm not sure. Depends a little bit on the start, depends on the opponents. I don't know if they have dynamics, etc., etc. If he thinks, for example, that maybe the fact I don't recognize Anson Yu or the big blind, maybe they're more likely to be recreational, I'm not sure. But decides to bet it, we're definitely fine.
Raise?
25,000.
Anson decides to raise now, which is a little interesting. Typically, I would not have raised Jack 10. I think Jack 10, even against the C-bet, is fairly challenging. And I think with the sizing as well, it's a fairly chunky sizing. Sizing is probably just, it will just be the one sizing and just decides to raise. I don't think there's any particular strategy. Just having, more than one check raise sizing, it's probably just the 25k. It seems okay-ish. The question is, if Jack 10 off, is it strong enough to check raise? Can you get called by significantly worse here? And I'm not sure you can. I think Patrick now is actually faced with a pretty tough, not thrilled about calling. His Queen Jack off is now bluff catcher. Anson could have called here. It has more, I think, opportunities, perhaps, to lead some turns, for example. Interestingly, we didn't talk about this, but he also perhaps could have led the flop as well. It's a three-way pop. You flattered the small blind. It depends a little bit what his flattening range would be, but that's a board that definitely could have some connectivity to the small blind flattening range. And if Patrick is opening Queen Jack off plus, that would suggest that his range is going to be slightly wider, and therefore that's kind of good for our donking range from the small blind. Maybe it's a little bit ambitious and a little bit over fancy play. Just something to think about, though. And maybe would save, you deny the same equity that you're now trying to deny from check raising, but this time you've risked less money and you don't allow, for example, it to go check through and a king come on the turn, then your life sucks.
Patrick continuing with the best hand. Third card is the king, a bad card for both players. Let's see if Anson wants to continue and maintain control of this hand. Looks like he does. 25k bet.
So an interesting bet for Anson here. Obviously not a fantastic king. I mean, both players would not be thrilled to see that king. And Anson definitely has a kind of awkward decision. One of the challenges with this check raising of this slightly marginal Jack 10 is it is slightly marginal on pretty much every turn, right? So even if the turns are 2, something really fun for us, you're still pretty unsure about, I think it would be wise to be unsure about whether you're actually betting for value or protection or what you're doing. Decides to go for this bet. This feels, and I don't know enough about this game, but it feels as though this is a bet of, I don't want to check and be faced with a bigger bet. There is some merit to that if, for example, you were to Okay, we can get quite technical here, but if you were to node lock, for example, that our opponent doesn't have a raising range over this, then it's sort of like a blocker bet, right? Which can be actually pretty fun and absolutely fine. It is definitely possible at these stack depths that Patrick might not have a raising range on this, you know? I mean, we have to think about some value. He'd want to raise here, and it's kind of tough to know exactly. I mean, obviously you could have like King Jack or Kings or whatever, but also bluffs are quite difficult to find in raising ranges. So for that reason, he may then choose, well, I don't think I'm perceived to raise any bluffs, so therefore I'm not going to raise value, so therefore I just won't have a raising range, right? Could be something. I think Patrick just has the decision to call here. I think it's fairly comfortable. There's still an awful lot of obviously missed stuff, missed draws out there, 7-9 spades, 6-7, 9-10, Queen 10, all these kind of combos, which could be check raised as a kind of bluff or semi-bluff and still could be there. Of course, there's still some Jack 10, there's still some Ace Jack, there's still some Queen Jack. King Jack is obviously a combo that Anson definitely could have, and that would be sad, but yeah, I would just see this going bet call. Let's see if my detective skills are accurate.
Just south of half the pot. Patrick can't love the king dropping on the turn. But with the price he's getting, gotta continue, so call we go.
So now the 2 comes, and Anton has an interesting spot here where he has to think about it a little bit. He is able to rep a lot of missed stuff here. So, for example, he can definitely have in his perceived range 6-7, as we mentioned, all the draws, 6-7, 7-9, Queen 10, 9-10, etc., etc., missed spades as well. And so he would be perceived, I think, to have quite a lot of air in his range. That may entice him to actually go for a sort of thin value bet with the Jack 10, assuming that Patrick is capable of hand reading and will perhaps call with worse hands, which I think is also reasonable. If Patrick has a hand, like, for example, like Ace 8, he certainly might be tempted to call there. The challenge is there's not tons of those hands. So when we really think about Patrick's range, when we think about a hand like Ace 8, yes, that's one hand, but King 8 obviously isn't value. Queen 8, I'm not sure there's too many Queen 8 offs in the Patrick's opening range. Queen 8 suited, of course, there's some, but they might not see bet. They probably don't call the turn. Maybe they do if you've got Queen 8 diamonds, I'm not sure. And then do they call the river? Difficult. And that's about it. So despite his range looking very, very bluffy, I'm not sure we'd expect to see tons of hero calls from Patrick here if we went for the big bet. Now, you have an option to go for maybe a blocker bet, something like another 25k, 35k. And in this case, you then may expect to see some more, let's say, hero calls. Maybe Patrick, for example, has a hand like Ace Queen of Spades and decides, actually, you know what, like, I kind of unblock a lot of the sort of straight draws at the bottom end that might check raise and then bet. And maybe actually I'll make the hero call of Ace Queen because the price is pretty good, etc., etc. But that's an option as well to maybe go for a blocker bet. Check-in is an option. Check-in is a little challenging because, again, whilst Patrick can have actually some... So if you check, you have to decide whether you check call or check fold. Your 10 isn't a fantastic combo, perhaps, to have. We would like Patrick to have, let's say, missed straight draws, especially without spades. And having the 10 is pretty bad. We would love Patrick to have, if we're choosing to check call, have a hand like 10-9 of diamonds or 10 queen of diamonds. He still, of course, can have 7-9. That's obviously the double gutter. Could have 6-7, stuff like that. Patrick could have missed spades as well, of course. There's some room. I think I would, given Anson's kind of wider check raise, and then sort of block bet on the turn, I wonder if he'll block bet again. I think I'm more in the camp of just check folding personally, but anticipating to go check and win at least somewhat frequently. But again, there could be lots of play dynamics at play here. Given it's a cash game, we don't have to worry about too much about ICM, of course. But let's see what he chooses to do. And it goes check. And I think that seems a reasonable play.
Anson content to check. Is Patrick? Yes, he is. A nice pickup for Patrick Antonius. 57,500 he wins.
And that's how to win a 100k pot, apparently. Just get top pair, get check raised. Cool the turn bet. Happy days. Well done, Patrick. All right. That was my analysis of the hand that I was sent. I hope that was interesting. Thanks very much, everybody. And yeah. Cheers. I hope I was recording.